have to go all or nothing on that? I mean,
it doesn't have to go all or nothing.
They isolate a particular problem, and they might be getting to what you're talking about next. Who knows? But you're really sitting up there and saying Congress would not pass the divestiture law if data security were the only interest.
So I'm saying it would not have passed this divestiture law if data security were the only interest. It's very curious why you just single out TikTok alone and not other companies with tens of millions of people having their own data taken, in the process of engaging with those websites, and equally, if not more, available to Chinese control. So I'm not trying to say that Congress has to do everything at once. I'm trying to say that once you've concluded that content manipulation, for the reasons I've said, as a matter of our history and tradition, has to be impermissible.
Is there another site like this one that covers half the American population?
Okay. I don't think, just by way of sheer numbers, Justice Sotomayor, that the answer has to be no, but 70 million seems like a lot.
170 million is a lot, but put that aside and then go to the next question, which is, how many of these sites have all of the data collection mechanisms that TikTok has? From what I understand from the briefs, not only is it getting your information, it's asking, and most people give it permission, to access your contact list, whether that contact list has permitted them to or not, so they can now have data about all of your contacts and anything you say about them. How many other sites gather information by keystrokes to be able to do voice and finger ID information if they choose? And there's a whole lot of data stuff that was discussed in the brief that I don't think any other website gathers. So wouldn't this be a unique site? If I viewed the evidence that way, how would this be under-inclusive?
Justice Sotomayor, I don't think a lot of the suppositions you're making actually bear out. And as Justice Gorsuch was pointing out, one of the, obviously, the real challenges in this case is it comes to you without an ordinary trial record compiled and all the rest. So we have only limited amounts of information. But absolutely, these other websites are taking much the same kind of information, if not more. And as to the contact list thing, I think that points out one other aspect of this. That is voluntary decision by an American user to share that information. In the Riley case—
But not informed. And
well,
even if informed—
that could be solved. If you don't think it's informed, that could be solved by a warning or disclosure.
No, that can't be, because for the United States, the threat of using that information is what is at issue. It's not whether the user thinks it's okay. It's whether the U.S. believes that it could put sites at issue. But let me ask you one last question and fundamental question. Assuming that content-neutral data collection concerns were is one of Congress's provisions, divest because of this. Why can't we separate that out from how we analyze the algorithm question? And couldn't we sever the two provisions to say divestiture is right, but you can't force them not to discuss algorithm?
Well, I think the reason why you can't do that was Mr. Francisco explained. I'd direct you to a case like Hunter against Underwood and just analogize it to this situation. If what you had is the government saying, we are shutting down TikTok or requiring divestiture for two reasons. One, because we think it helps the Democratic Party too much. And number two, because we're concerned about data. I think that first interest would be a poison pill. That would be an impermissible, or because we think there's too much pro-Catholic content on TikTok. I think there are some interests that are just so constitutionally verboten that I think that just makes the act unconstitutional, and you can't go looking for other interests. You send it back to Congress. Look, if you want to pass a data security law free and clear of this impermissible interest, you go ahead and do it.
So,
can I say one other thing, Justice Sotomayor, just because I think it is also telling here that even if you didn't buy that poison pill argument and you just asked whether Congress would have passed this law, something else that I think you might notice is even if all this act goes into effect and the law goes through, TikTok gets to keep all the data. So wouldn't a data security law require them to expunge that data or get rid of it or something? I mean, it's a very weird law if you're just looking at it through a data security lens, and maybe Congress could do better.
Mr. Fisher,